My name is Michael Grant. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And let me start with this: sometimes, the people you give everything to are the first ones to turn their back on you. But the truth? The truth doesn't stay buried forever. It knocks louder than any accusation. I guess you have everything, don't you? I shouted, my voice shaking with fury. The house, the car, my name on your back, and now, you think you can raise your voice at me like I'm some kind of stranger? Across the room, my son, Ethan, stood with his fists clenched, eyes blazing, and his jaw locked like he was holding back years of resentment. I'm raising my voice because I'm done listening to lies, Dad. You've been lying to me my entire life. I stepped forward. What did you just say? You heard me, he barked. You're a liar. You've always been a liar. You pretended to be this great man, this hero. You kept things from me. Big things. Mom told me everything. My heart dropped. That one sentence shifted the whole air in the room. The words didn't just hit me, they carved straight through me. Mom told me everything. I narrowed my eyes. And what exactly did your mother tell you, Ethan? That you never wanted me. That you were never around because you had another family. That you didn't even want to raise me unless the court forced you to. And you know what? I believe her. The slap of his words hit harder than any blow. My hands curled into fists at my side, not because I was angry at him, but because I was holding myself back. Holding in everything I had buried for nearly 2 decades. I worked 3 jobs just to keep a roof over your head, I growled. I missed your games because I was building your future. Your mother? She was out spending the money I sent you on vacations with other men. Liar. Ethan snapped, stepping even closer now, his face inches from mine. You're just trying to twist everything around like always. No wonder she left you. My chest heaved. There it was. The disrespect. The twisted story. The betrayal of a son who had no idea how much blood I'd spilled for him. I didn't raise my voice. I raised a man who forgot who held him when the world didn't care. You weren't there, Ethan. You didn't see her come home at 3 a.m. with perfume that didn't belong to her. You didn't read the text messages she accidentally left open on my laptop. You didn't sit in that courtroom and listen to her lie about me while holding your hand like a shield. He laughed. He laughed. Right in my face. You really expect me to believe you over her? She's the one who was there for me. She's the one who made sure I ate, went to school, got my scholarship. You were just a name on a check. My voice dropped, low and slow. That check bought you your first guitar. Paid for your basketball camp. Put food on your plate while I lived out of a motel. But none of that matters now, does it? Because your mother spun you a bedtime story and you chose to believe it. Because it makes sense, he yelled. Why else would you never talk about the past? Why else would you always shut down when I asked about your side? Because I didn't want to poison your heart against her, I said, teeth clenched. I didn't want to raise you on revenge. His eyes flicked, just for a second. But it wasn't enough. He had already made his choice. You're nothing like the man I thought you were, he said coldly. You don't even know what the truth is anymore. I felt it then, the burn behind my eyes, the tremble in my hand. Not from weakness. From heartbreak. From a silence I had carried for too long. And you, I said, voice cracking, you're not the son I raised. Because the boy I raised wouldn't throw a decade of sacrifice away without even asking to hear the other side. Just then, the doorbell rang. We both turned. Silence replaced the shouting like a curtain had dropped. Ethan looked toward the hallway, confused. I didn't move. He shook his head. If that's Mom, I swear. It's not your mother, I said flatly. But maybe it's time you learned who I really am, and who you really are. I walked past him and opened the door. Standing there was a woman Ethan had never seen before, holding a small, weathered box and a folded piece of paper. She looked me straight in the eyes. It's time. I stepped aside. Come in. Ethan stared between us. Who is that? What's going on? The woman looked directly at Ethan. I'm the person your mother didn't want you to meet. Because I hold the truth she spent years hiding. And just like that, the storm inside my house wasn't the loudest thing anymore. If you've ever been lied to by the very people who were supposed to protect you. If you've ever been painted as the villain just because you stayed silent. Then stay with me. Because this story will show you that the truth has a voice and sometimes, it knocks when you least expect it. Ethan stared at the woman like she had grown a second head. Who are you? He asked, his voice sharp, defensive, like a guard dog protecting territory he didn't even understand. She didn't answer right away. She just placed the box on the coffee table and gently unfolded the paper in her hands. It was yellowed at the edges, soft from time and creases. But the words on it, typed, stamped, and signed, were still bold. She's the one person your mother never wanted in our house, I said quietly. Because this, I tapped the paper with a trembling finger, is proof of everything I was too ashamed to say. Ethan crossed his arms. What is this? Some old bill? A fake story to cover your lies? The woman finally spoke. No, Ethan. It's your custody ruling. And your birth certificate. Both signed by a judge. Both sealed away before you were old enough to read. Your mother told you I left. What she didn't say was that she took you away and I had to fight the court just to be able to see you. He blinked, shaken. That's not true. She said you didn't want to be around. That you had another child. Another life. I turned to him. She told you I abandoned you for someone else. What she didn't tell you was why. My voice dropped to a whisper, not for drama, but because I could still taste the bitterness of it. Because I caught her cheating. Repeatedly. Because she used you like a pawn in a custody battle she knew she couldn't win until she lied in court and said I was violent. Ethan's mouth fell slightly open. His shoulders slumped, but not in defeat. In confusion. He wasn't yelling anymore. He wasn't accusing. For the first time in years, my son was listening. I thought it would go away, I continued. I thought the court would see through it. But they didn't. All they saw was a scared woman and a man with no money, no lawyer, and no chance. So I stepped away. Why didn't you fight harder? He asked, softer now. Why didn't you? Why didn't you come for me? My eyes locked with his. I did, Ethan. 4 years. Every birthday. Every Christmas. I sent cards. Gifts. Letters. She returned every single one. The woman beside me opened the box. Inside were the letters. Dozens of them. All unopened. All returned to sender. With little notes scribbled on the envelopes, wrong address. No longer lives here. Do not contact. Ethan reached for one slowly, like it was a bomb that might go off in his hands. He picked up the top one, ran his fingers over the front, and read the date, December 25, 2010. He was only 7 then. This was real? I spent Christmas Eve alone in a motel, I whispered. Because I'd spent every penny buying you a gift and sending that letter. She told me you didn't want it. I believed her. His face twisted, part disbelief, part heartbreak. Why would she do that? She didn't want you to love me, the woman answered. She wanted to erase me. Ethan looked up at her. And who exactly are you? She smiled sadly. I'm the lawyer your dad hired when he had nothing. I'm the one who represented him pro bono because when I saw him outside that courthouse, soaked in rain, holding your photo like it was his last breath, I knew this man didn't need a verdict. He needed a miracle. Silence filled the room. Ethan sat down slowly, the letter still in his hands. But she was always there, he mumbled. Every game. Every award. She clapped the loudest. She also took credit for everything I did, I said. When I paid your tuition, she told you it came from her. When I sent you a new laptop, she said it was from a family friend. She kept me in the shadows. Because she knew if the light hit the truth, she'd lose you. He stared at the envelope in his hand for a long time. I don't know what to say, he whispered. I walked to the hallway, opened the closet, and pulled out an old box identical to the one the lawyer had brought. I placed it next to hers. Then don't say anything. Just read. And he did. He opened another envelope. Then another. Some had photos. Some had receipts of money transfers. Some had tear-stained writing that looked like it had been scribbled on napkins or hotel paper pads. I wrote those when I had nothing but hope, I said, my voice breaking now. I thought if I could just keep writing, maybe one day you'd know. Ethan stood up slowly and walked toward me. I'm sorry, he said. And I broke. The weight I had carried for 18 years, every rejection, every accusation, every lie my son believed, it shattered right there in the middle of the living room. I just wanted to be your dad, I whispered. He hugged me. For the first time in over a decade, my son really hugged me. And in that moment, I knew the truth had finally found its way home. We sat in silence for a long time. No more shouting. No more accusations. Just two men, father and son, trying to figure out how to piece together the years we'd lost. Ethan's hands trembled as he flipped through another letter. His eyes scanned the page, but I could tell his mind was far away. Somewhere between regret and rage. This is too much, he whispered. Everything I believed, it's upside down. I nodded, slowly. I know. He looked at me again, and this time, his eyes weren't full of anger, they were full of something else. Guilt. All those times I yelled at you, he said. All the names I called you. I didn't even give you a chance to explain. I just took her side. She's your mother, I said softly. I understand why you did. But that's not an excuse, he snapped, suddenly pacing. I treated you like garbage. I didn't even question anything she said. I thought I was protecting myself from you, but really, I was just repeating what she wanted me to believe. I stood, walked over, and placed a hand on his shoulder. You were a kid, Ethan. You were fed a story since you were old enough to understand language. That's not your fault. But you're a man now. And men decide what to do with the truth once they finally get it. He looked up, his jaw tight. So what do I do? Huh? Call her? Confront her? Because if I do, I don't think I'll be able to hold back. I'm furious, Dad. It was the first time in years he'd called me that. Dad. And it damn near broke me all over again. You don't have to confront her right now, I said. You don't even have to decide tonight. But you do need to know this, whatever you choose to do. I'm not going anywhere. He took a breath, shaky, uneven. I feel like I've been living in someone else's version of my life, he said, his voice cracking. And now that I've seen the real one, I don't even recognize myself. Truth does that, I told him. It burns. But it also cleans. He sat down again and looked at the two boxes. Years of silence. Years of rejection. All of it sitting in front of him like a puzzle finally coming together. He picked up the small photo I had tucked into one of the letters, a picture of us at the zoo when he was 4. I remembered that day. He had cried when the cotton candy got stuck in his hair, and I held him all the way home. I still remember this, he whispered. I thought it was just a dream. I asked Mom once if it really happened, and she said no. She said we never went to the zoo together. I swallowed hard. She tried to erase me, Ethan. That's the hardest part. Not losing you, but being erased. He nodded slowly. I let her do it. No, I said firmly. She did it. And now, you get to decide what kind of man you want to be moving forward. There was a pause. Then he asked the one question I'd been waiting for my whole life. Can we start over? My throat tightened. I've been waiting 18 years to hear you say that. We hugged again, tighter this time. Not out of guilt, but out of something stronger, recognition. The bond we were supposed to have was still there, just buried under the rubble of manipulation in time. But just as that moment settled, Ethan pulled back and wiped his face. I need to ask you something else. Go ahead. What about her? The woman who helped you. Why now? Why today? I turned to the lawyer, who had been sitting silently the whole time. She stood. Because your father never gave up. Every year on your birthday, he sent another letter. Every Christmas, he donated to your school's scholarship fund anonymously. And every few years, he came to my office and asked, should we try again? Ethan stared at me. I didn't even know you were there all along. That's the thing about love, I said. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it waits in silence, hoping one day you'll come home. He rubbed his face and exhaled. I feel like I've been robbed of a lifetime. So do I said. But we still have the one ahead of us. His voice dropped to a whisper. Do you forgive me? I already did. The room grew quiet again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was hopeful. 3 days passed before Ethan said a word about his mother. He'd stayed with me that weekend, quiet but not distant. Every now and then, he'd pick up another letter from the box and read it like a sacred text. He wasn't rushing to judgment anymore. He was letting the truth settle in his bones. But on Sunday morning, I found him sitting on the porch, staring at his phone with a look I hadn't seen before. Not confusion. Not guilt. Resolve. I called her, he said, not looking up. Told her I wanted to meet. Alone. No games. She said she's home. I nodded slowly. Are you sure you're ready? He clenched his jaw. No. But I can't carry this in my chest anymore. I need to look her in the eye and ask her why. I stood there for a second, torn between letting him go alone and protecting him from what I already knew would hurt. But I'd held him back long enough. So I said, go. Say what you need to say. And remember, you don't owe her anger. You only owe her the truth. An hour later, he stood at the door of the house he grew up in. The one I was never welcome in. His hand hovered before he knocked. When she opened the door, her smile faltered. Ethan, she said cautiously. Is everything okay? He stepped inside without answering. Walked right past her and into the living room. When she followed him in, she noticed the look on his face. It wasn't her little boy anymore. It was a man looking at a mask and finally seeing through it. You lied to me, he said coldly. Her eyes widened. Excuse me? He pulled the first letter from his jacket. Dropped it on the table. You told me Dad didn't want me. That he left. That he abandoned me. She looked at the envelope, then back at him. Ethan, what is this? He dropped another. And another. Until 6 were sitting on the table like stacked evidence. I read every one, he said, his voice shaking. Letters from him. Photos. Receipts. Years of love you never let reach me. Why? Her expression cracked, just for a second. Then the lies came pouring back like they'd been rehearsed. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to confuse you. You were too young to understand. No, he cut her off. I was too young to see the truth. You made sure of that. She stepped forward, her tone turning sharp. Don't come in here accusing me like I'm the villain. I raised you. I gave you everything. You gave me a false story, Ethan snapped. You made me hate a man who never stopped loving me. You erased him from my life. I protected you, she shouted. From what? His voice boomed now. From my own father? From letters telling me how proud he was? From the truth that you were the one cheating? You used me as a weapon. Her lip trembled, but she held her ground. You wouldn't understand what I went through. What he put me through. I understand you lied in court, he said, cutting through her words like a blade. You told the system he was dangerous. You painted him like a monster. You poisoned my childhood. A beat passed. Then her shoulders dropped. She didn't deny it. Because if I didn't, he would have taken you from me. Ethan blinked, stunned by the confession. So you admit it? Tears slipped from her eyes now, but they didn't move him. I was scared, she whispered. I thought he'd win. I didn't want to lose you. He shook his head slowly. You didn't lose me. You stole me. The room went quiet. For once, her words were gone. I look at him now, Ethan said, voice thick. And I see everything I missed. Everything you kept from me. I blamed him for every bad thing that ever happened, and he just took it. Because he didn't want to turn me against you. She looked at the floor. The lies were too heavy now. Too exposed. I don't hate you, he added. But I don't trust you either. Not anymore. Ethan, please. He took a step back. I'm leaving. I don't know if I'll ever come back. But I am going back to him. Because he never stopped being my dad. Even when I stopped being his son. He walked to the door. And this time, he was the one leaving. He came home to me later that evening. Said he didn't want to talk about it right away. He just sat with me on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, the way fathers and sons do when words fall short. That night, we didn't talk about the past. We just watched the game. A small moment, but a real one. And after everything, it felt like the first true beginning we'd ever had. It's been 6 months since that door finally closed on the lies. And in that time, Ethan and I have started to rebuild something that was stolen from both of us. Not in big, cinematic gestures, but in the small, quiet ones that matter more than most people realize. Like coffee on the porch in the mornings. Like watching the Lions game without saying a word, just being there. Like him finally calling me dad without flinching. Healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence, trust, and time. There are still scars, sure. He still has moments where he looks at me like he's searching, still trying to match the man I'd become with the father he thought he lost. And sometimes I catch myself wondering who he could have been if I'd been there every night to tuck him in. But we don't live in the land of what if anymore. We live in the now. And lately, the now feels good. A few weeks ago, Ethan invited me to his college campus to meet someone. I didn't ask questions. I just showed up, as always. He walked me across the quad, nervous like he had something big to say. I've been thinking about what you said, he told me. That we don't owe people anger, we owe them the truth. I nodded. You've been living it. He laughed a little. Yeah, but this one's for me. He led me into the student center, where a small group of students were setting up for an event. At the front of the room, taped to a podium, was a flyer that read, Finding Truth, Breaking Cycles of Parental Alienation. I stared at it for a long second, stunned. I'm telling our story today, Ethan said. The real one. I looked at him, pride swelling so hard it nearly hurt. You don't have to do that. I want to, he said. Because there's some other kid out there who's being told the same lies I believed. And maybe if they hear this, they won't wait 18 years to find the truth. He walked up to that podium like a man who had earned his voice back. And I stood at the back of that room, arms crossed, heart wide open, as my son told a crowd of strangers about how the man he once hated turned out to be the one who never gave up on him. He didn't cry. But I did. Not because I was sad. Because I was proud. Because the truth had finally broken through the noise. Because my son had finally come home. Final monologue, closing moral. My name is Michael Grant. I'm not perfect. I'm not rich. I'm not a hero. I'm just a father who refused to give up. If you've ever been lied about, erased, or forgotten, if someone took your name and turned it into something ugly, don't let that be your ending. Keep showing up. Keep writing the letters. Keep the door open. Because one day, the truth will knock. And when it does, make sure you're standing there to open it. If this story moved you, if you've been through something similar, or if you've ever had to fight to be in someone's life, don't give up. The truth always finds its way. And when it does, it changes everything.